Hey everybody, Nintendo commentator and competitive Splatoon 2 player Mellana here again to talk about competitive gameplay. We talked earlier about anchors and support roles in Splatoon 2, and my predictions for those players in Splatoon 3, but you're totally missing out if you missed those videos, so be sure to catch them by using the links in the description below. We still have one more role to go over, so let's get ready to tackle the Slayer role, myths about the role currently in Splatoon 2, and what we might be able to expect in Splatoon 3. So what is a Slayer, and what's its place currently in Splatoon 2? Like I said in my support video, Slayers are responsible for getting picks for the team and providing the momentum for their team to move forward toward the objective. Weapons are usually shorter ranged, like the Kenza Splatter Shot and the Splash-O-Matic, but as I mentioned before, I adopted these terms, Anchor, Support, and Slayer, so that they're more flexible. So, in theory, a Squeezer or a Splattershot Pro could also play more aggressively, like a Slayer, despite having less immediate contact with the opponents face-to-face. Personally, I think that the Slayer role is a pretty easy one to transition to. And I'm speaking as somebody who had started out as a support player and kind of moved into the Slayer role sometime in my Splatoon 2 competitive experience. And in my opinion, the reason for this easy transition is because solo queue rewards players who carry, and really what better way to carry than to just, wipe out the whole team. But I think that there are important things to know in a competitive context for Slayers, and certain myths that really need to be debunked in order for Splatoon 3 to have a more healthy competitive environment. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the myths of the Slayer role in Splatoon 2. Myth number 1. It's important for Slayers to run straight into the action. This myth is very, very false. A player that is alive is always going to be better than a player that is currently respawning, because Splatoon is a team game, and if you have a numbers advantage, you will usually have a combat advantage. After all, there is power in numbers. Unfortunately, solo queue doesn't help with this mentality because you can't communicate with your teammates, and it always feels like the onus is on you to help your team succeed. I remember when I was in A rank or S rank, or even early on in my Splatoon competitive career, I found myself tunnel visioning and chasing after splats a lot. I even remember teaming up with that SRB2 dude for a LAN once, earlier in my competitive career. And when we talked about this experience years later, he was telling me how, in his head, he was trying to get me to stop chasing after unlikely picks. So as you can see, tunnel visioning usually turned out pretty badly for me and created a one-down situation for my team. I think it's really important to kind of recognize this gameplay and to be mindful of it, because I think it'll help you overall as a team player. I find that something Slayers do to counter this a little bit is to run maybe 1 or 2 subs of quick super jump, so that if you find yourself in a bad situation, you have more of an opportunity to jump back to your well-positioned anchor player, or even to the spawn, so that you can come back to the action with your team together. Myth number 2. Slayers are the only players who get splats for the team. Now, Slayers might pad their stats the most because the weapons they usually play are aggressive, but everyone is capable of getting picks for the team, anchors and support players alike. Support players are often invaluable to help Slayers with getting picks, since entering fights with more than 2 people will normally give you that advantage, and sometimes it gives you a positional advantage too. Like, for instance, if a Slayer and a support player were to pincer an opponent, the opponent can't look in 2 places at once, right? I think if you maintain an attitude that says that support players and anchor players, or even other Slayers, are able to get just as many picks as you, I think it'll help with myth number 1 too. Remember, you're not the only person on the team, and you're not the most important person on the team either. We all have different jobs on a Splatoon team, so let's just make sure we focus on our own responsibilities. If there are any other myths for Slayers that you can think of, definitely drop it in the chat. As someone who plays in the Slayer role, I also think that sometimes I might overlook these things too, so I'd like to hear what you all have to say, especially those players who play in other roles. I really think that it's super important to tackle these myths now, so that a more healthy competitive environment can grow from Splatoon 3. So here are some of the predictions that I have for Slayers in Splatoon 3. The first thing I want to mention is that all weapon classes from Splatoon 2 will be returning to Splatoon 3. And I think this is important to mention because I think there's going to be an easier time transitioning into becoming a Slayer and even the other roles. So in this way, the learning curve to be able to pick up weapons is significantly lessened since the current competitive players already have experience with their weapon class of choice. But who knows? There might be new weapons that get released later down the road, so perhaps there's more potential for even greater weapon variation in competitive gameplay. And I would be super remiss not to mention the new movement tech that was introduced in some of the earlier trailers for Splatoon 3. I think that Slayers are going to be killing it with this new squid jump movement tech. It leads to better protection for more aggressive pushes, if it works in the way that we can see a little bit of in the trailers. Although there's no official confirmation yet, the potential invincibility frames will make a big difference in being able to make or break a push. Or, give yourself a better chance and take a support player companion with you. And of course, many of the specials that are currently announced in Splatoon 3 are usable by Slayers, like the Zipcaster or maybe even the Ink Vac. But I'd like to talk about some of the specials that I hadn't mentioned in my earlier videos. So the first one I want to mention is the Triple Ink Strike. Now there's no official confirmation yet that missiles will stay in Splatoon 2, and some people have speculated that they have seen missile strikes coming out from some of the trailers. But if they do leave missiles in Splatoon 2, the Triple Ink Strike is, in my opinion, a great adjustment of the special. Most of the Splatoon 3 specials are localized, which means that you can't hit someone from one spawn to the other like you could with maybe a Stingray or missiles. So by localizing the Ink Strike, I feel like Slayers could still use it in a way that would promote pushes, but it wouldn't make the anchors lose all of their hair with constant missiles, if their positioning is good enough. And the last special I want to talk about is the Ink Zuka. This special is making a reappearance since Splatoon 1, and it has a player pull out a bazooka-like weapon, giving the player an opportunity to shoot 3 large towering shots in front of them. Now I could see potential with this special for both Slayer and support roles, because it helps to keep the opponents on their toes. What I think would make this special really cool is if you're able to pull it out and then go into the ink to swim with the weapon. So I could kind of see it like, if you can use it in this way, I could see it kind of like those bubble blower pushes in Splatoon 2, where a player will save their last bubble until they're in better positioning to use it. And by finding a better position to use that last shot of your Ink Zuka, you might be able to kind of make more momentum and make better pushes from it. Thank you all again for joining me on this journey to kind of analyze the different roles in Splatoon 2 and my predictions for them in Splatoon 3. Again, if you liked this video but you didn't get a chance to check out my anchor role video and my support role video, you can check out the links in the description below to catch up on what you missed. If you liked this video and you want to hear me talk a little bit more about the competitive community in Splatoon, feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell button so you know when my next video is up. I wanted to give a quick thank you to you all for helping me reach 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for your support, and through this journey, I've learned so much from you all, from all of the comments that you've left on my videos, and from all the love that you showed. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And with that being said, see you next week for another video with me, Mellana, and until then, stay fresh.